And I saw this message from someone that said, please, 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 there's something that Nick Wright said that I really, really want you to react to. He made some comments about Bill Walton that's really got a lot of people upset with him. So I'm like, what is he talking about? Well, apparently what had happened was, First Things First did a segment on Bill Walton after word came out of his passing. So I tuned into the segment to see exactly what this gentleman was talking about. And when I went there to see what he had to say, he made some comments that a lot of people took exception to, and they thought that it was in bad taste and just way too soon to go out there and say what he said. So what we want to do is want to play exactly what Nick Wright had to say on First Things First, and then we're going to come back and actually read some of the comments that people put up in response to what he had to say. Take a listen to what Nick Wright had to say here.
I remember he was a great player, a great, fun guy to be around, and I thought he was a tremendous broadcaster as well.
So on the basketball side of things, from midway point of his junior year of high school until the midway point of his senior year of college, he didn't lose a game. Didn't lose a game. There was an 88-game collegiate winning streak in there, plus what he did in high school, plus what he did his freshman year at UCLA. If you ask the question, who's the greatest college basketball player of all time, you're allowed to give two names, either Lou Alcindor or Bill Walton. They're the only two eligible. Then in the pros, as Brew mentioned, he has 20 points, 23 rebounds, 7 assists, 8 blocks to win a championship against Dr. J at the peak of Dr. J's powers. Then next
that was
year,
the youngest team ever to win a
correct.
championship.
And the next year he followed that up by winning league MVP. And then foot injuries derailed it. But despite that, he then was sixth man of the year for a team a lot of people think is the greatest team ever, the 86 Celtics. With all that said, he might have been an even better broadcaster. And I was telling these guys before the show, when I was a little kid, Bill Walton is who I wanted to be. When I would tell people I want to do broadcasting, and I said I want to talk about the NBA for a living, it was the Walton, Steve Snapper Jones combo on NBC that I loved and wanted to do. And I didn't know you had to be a player or a coach to sit in those seats. So many of my memories as a kid growing up, the soundtrack are him and Snapper bickering, playfully with each other. And I remember getting mad, telling my mom that I thought that Snapper Jones was so mean to Bill because I didn't know their friendship. So he is a legendary career over 60 years or 50 years, and truly unbelievable.
That was well said. Bill Walton was 71 years old.
So you heard what Nick Wright had to say, and I want to read some of the comments that people left on this Facebook post. One person said, "It's a wonder why I have zero interest in these kind of programs. Such a nitwit take. Never had been a fan of him anyway, to his days locally in Kansas City. Nick Wright is awful, but what's being quoted here is taken out of context. He was just commenting on Walton's greatness as a broadcaster. I'm not old enough to have seen Walton as his best. I vaguely remember him as in Boston, and I love him on NBC, especially when he would openly criticize teams and players and say things like, 'What was that?' Then another person said, 'Terminate this show already.' Another person said, 'He's a Hall of Famer in college and the NBA. Wow, what a dumb take.' Then another person said, another group of people said, 'I usually think a lot of the criticism Nick gets is a bit unfair, but Jesus Christ, this is such a bad take. Bill Walton was one of the greatest college players of all time and one of the best NBA players in the league's heyday. He still had a Hall of Fame career despite basically playing through injury every game.' I want to get into the last one. One person said, 'Horrific broadcaster, overly gregarious, dismissive of partners' observations, and his pace was annoyingly lumbering as though he was too smart for us and had to slow it down so we could understand. I would either turn off games he was on covering or turn around. He was the worst. And he found a way to squeeze the world champion into every telecast.' That's one person that's not a fan of him. And then another person said, 'What terrible framing this is. He's complimenting his broadcasting.' And then a few other people went on and on and on and on and on and on. So what is my reaction to what Nick Wright had to say and the people that are upset with Nick Wright? First of all, I think that whenever comments are made after people have passed away, emotions usually are running very high. And any little thing you say in one direction or the other could really set people off, and it could offend people. Because again, when things like this happen, especially when it just happened, you have to be very, very careful of what you say. Now, we've had various athletes pass away. Like I remember when Bill Russell passed away, we did a post on our channel about it, and we just expressed our views and wish him to rest in peace.